Howdy, folks. Tom Bubbler here in Las Vegas, Nevada for Monty and the Fox. Well, as folks may know, I've been on a bit of a Palladium kick recently, and I think this is probably one of the best Palladium books that I have found so far. This is Palladium Books Presents Contemporary Weapons. And folks may remember that I have a book coming out shortly that's set in 1993. I call it the 1993 writing. And one of the interesting things about the 1993 period is it's really quite difficult to actually get a sense of the weapons that were about in 1993. I don't want to go too contemporary and I don't want to go too old school. And I found this book. Now, I didn't even think of this when I purchased this book. I was just interested in seeing the Palladium weapon system as applied for modern weapons and just how to integrate it. There's something very interesting about this book. It actually came out in 1993. So this book is also going to be used as a kind of what was available in 1993 weapons book. But it's a standard kind of Palladium style in terms of just the layout. I understand that they do I don't know what you'd call it, but basically it's a very old school style of layout, kind of, I think they call it hot wax or something like that, but it's like pictures and text that have been laid out in a relatively rudimentary form, not a lot of kind of graphic design style, but it has a real aesthetic to it. I just love the line art and basically all the kind of descriptions. And it also details, although this is in the US, it details weapons prices and things like that. And it's got various rules. I'm not a huge fan. The more I read about the Palladium gaming style, the Megaverse or whatever they call it, I'm not really into it in terms of a rule system. I think it's still very profession based, for want of a better description. This OCC occupation kind of methods, it doesn't really do it for me. And initially, when I purchased it, I thought to myself, this is just basically taking an existing book of weapons as you would buy, maybe a Barnes and Noble or Borders. They sell all these kind of compendiums of various firearms, and then adding on the Palladium kind of gaming system. But in terms of a resource for what was available in 1993, I really am enjoying it, and I think it's going to be a very useful reference in that way alone. But a wide variety of different weapon systems here. Obviously, we're going through the rifles, automatics, shotguns, some machine guns, grenades, various things like that. But it really gives a good time setting for the context of my 1993 writing. In this regard, I think it was a very good purchase. I'm not sure how much I paid for it. I think, it was probably the sticker price. But in general, I think this is a useful reference book, and probably something that if people who are interested in really doing something in the early 90s, or perhaps just prior to or just after the early 90s, want an exact reference guide to the kind of weapons that were available then, and some of them are still relatively contemporary, this is a very good resource, and it's part of a series of Palladium books associated with various weapon types. But certainly from my perspective, it gets a thumbs up. Not a huge fan of the Palladium system, like I said, but in terms of just a reference book and in terms of the quality of descriptions, I mean, you can buy a lot of books that basically give you this kind of information, particularly when you start looking at semi-automatic weapons and the fully automatic weapons and just these kind of statistics. You get these typically in a lot of books. Obviously, maybe not so much detail associated with kind of D6 dash and this kind of stuff, but basically it's a very similar style to the kind of information that you get, as I said, in the kind of compendiums that you get of weapons. But in terms of just breadth of content, I think it's a pretty useful reference book, and certainly for my own writing, I will be using it very heavily as a reference book. Although the 1993 RPG system does not have really this level of detail in the weapons yet. There are more kind of generic weapons that then filter into broader categories. We do have my man Wicket, who may do a cameo role either in this one or the next, and I think he may actually do a cameo role if he can jump up. Anyway, so Tom Arbelay from Monty and the Fox, contemporary weapons, the Compendium of Contemporary Weapons from Palladium Books. Probably not the last Palladium book review that I'm going to do this evening, but certainly a thumbs up from me if you're interested in those kind of perspectives, that kind of period, and also just a relatively thorough compendium of weapons. And if you play Palladium system, then yeah, it's a must-have. I think, particularly for their kind of near history, dark future, nuclear apocalypse, superhero kind of genre stuff. So anyway, one of my favorites from Palladium, the Compendium of Contemporary Weapons. Tom Barbalet for Monty and the Fox, signing off.